topic of today, which is how to start a service-based business, which is what you started, which is controversially one of the most difficult businesses to start, that has probably one of the most upfront capital, especially if you have like a brick and mortar store that you have to open up. So what led you, obviously besides the background of knowing how to do it, like what led you to want to take that route out of all businesses that are online these days and AI, that now you have to go out and physically work with your customers versus what you could do online?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that obviously in today's day and age, the concept of entrepreneurship and business has been whitewashed.
Yeah.
It's like, you have all these people that are starting courses and doing online business and stuff like that. And a lot of the guys that I listen to, the idea is that if you can't see a product or a service, then you should be somewhat, what do you own? You should be somewhat skeptical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that in today's day and age, the concept of entrepreneurship and business ownership has been whitewashed because everybody that, sells a product online or sells a course online or does anything online, calls themselves a business owner.
Yeah.
And, I've always been a hardworking guy. When I was a kid, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I would go knock doors and mow lawns and things like that. And I think that being able to actually work on a business, I've always been a business guy, and I've always been interested in business, intrigued in business and things like that. And so, being able to have a service-based business, that's one world. Having a product-based business is difficult too in its own ways.
Yeah.
But having a service-based business is something that, there's kind of two layers to it where you have to balance working on your business and, working in your business. And so, there's a variety of different reasons why, I started Elevate, but, providing a product or a service to a consuming public has always been my definition of what business ownership and entrepreneurship looks like. And, with all my experience in the business world in general, transitioning that to something that, I know and something that I'm familiar with, has always been something I wanted to do. So, I kind of forgot where we were going, but yeah.
No,
that's
good. That's good. Cause like you said, like a lot of people, we build websites for a living. So, I think that's the biggest lie a lot of people get themselves into. A lot of clients that we don't want to work with are ones that are like, oh, build me a website. Like, great. What's your business? Well, I'm thinking about a business.
Yeah.
I heard you had a free website offer, or like, I heard you have cheap websites, but it's like, building the website isn't going to do anything. You need to offer a product or a service in order for that to be a legit business.
Yeah.
So it's a very tempting route to take when it comes to business ownership, is that physical service-based business, because like it leaves no room for excuses. And you could do it without a website. You don't have to have any online presence. You said as a kid, you go knock doors and mow lawns. That's technically a business.
Yeah. And, sometimes having extra tools and resources, like you said, you don't necessarily need a website. Well, we decided to have a website built out for us because, in today's day and age, it's an important part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But there's aspects of business where it's like, if you haven't narrowed down specifically what you're doing, if you haven't figured out your specific target audience, if you're not good at what you do and you don't strive on a daily basis to be the best at what you do, then those tools and resources are going to expose you.
Yeah.
Because at the click of a button, someone can go and post a review. And in today's day and age, it's like, if you're looking for a new restaurant, you're going to go look on Google, right? And you're going to look at reviews. You're going to look at their website. You're going to look at, the professionalism and all that kind of stuff. And just like in the industry of building websites and marketing and all of that kind of stuff is the same in our industry. Yeah. There's big fish in the pool, And then there's small fish, and you can usually tell the difference between, what people utilize, if they're actually good at their skill, if they're crafted and know what they're doing. Because, knowing how to build a website is completely different than running a business, building websites for people strategically for their niche.
Yeah.
And it's the same in our industry. Knowing how to clean a car is very different than hiring a professional high-end mobile detailing company to come out and, take care of your vehicle. Yeah. So there's so many different layers and so many different levels that you can excel at. And, it's just understanding what's going to be the most beneficial for where you're at right now. And, building a website and marketing is always something that's going to bring people in the door.
Yeah.
But just like, there's specific people that you guys are targeting, there's specific people that we're targeting too.
Yeah. Because you don't want customers that want to pay the price of some kid with a hose and a bucket.
Yeah. You can go on Facebook Marketplace right now and you can find an auto detailer.
Yeah.
You can go on Facebook Marketplace right now and type in website design, and you can find some, guy in his basement that, quote unquote builds websites.
Yeah.
But for every business, there's a target audience. And that's something that is important to get clear on before you start taking, because, the statistics of people who want to be an entrepreneur and want to build a business.
Yeah.
Is very different than the percentage of people that actually do it and do it well.
Yeah. Doing the well part is the big part. Because in fact, I just talked to a lady the other day who got a quote from a contractor, and he quoted her the cheapest price because you're going to go that way. He asked for 70% up front, and she did some research into him and found out that he's a scammer.
Yep.
And it's like the cheap is not always the option.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there that maybe look like a legit business, but don't even have that type of business. So
yeah, and I'm very aware that there's basically 3 tiers of people that this probably applies to your guys' business as well. But there's 3 tiers of people when it comes to the types of customers that a detailing company would attract. Right. The first tier is people who wouldn't hire a detailing company. They're people like I was initially who, was the weekend warrior who was excited about cleaning my cars, excited about taking care of my stuff, wanted to learn the craft, wanted to, understand different techniques and all of that kind of stuff. Those are typically not the people that we're looking for, right? Those are people. Yeah, the DIYers, the people who, just they would rather do it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's great because, we want to eventually be able to create content, create value for those types of people as well from a professional point of view where, I remember I've been detailing for over a decade. And so, I essentially grew up watching people that created content that allowed me to learn the craft. And then the second tier of people are people who haven't cleaned their car since they bought it, who live out of their car, which is not actually live out of their car, but it's not really taken care of. And once every year, once every couple years, they hire somebody to do it. And then there's the third tier of people who are busy. We're all busy. They have kids. They're running from point A to point B. They run a business like we do. They don't have the time or the effort. Because, granted, owning a detailing company, just ask my wife, it's hard to get our own cars in my calendar because I'm cleaning cars all day, right? Yeah. But so there's people out there that value a service like that more than their time. Right. And so we're capitalizing on the people who are business owners, the people who are running from point A to point B, the people who are, busy with life that, value a service-based company coming out and taking care of them and not only making them feel like family, but making their car look brand new. Right. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And, people get into the weeds when you're trying to target, you're trying to convince the tier 1 level people that they need an auto detailer.
Yeah.
And you're taking on all the tier 2 people, and you're trying to capitalize on, all of the tier 3 people. And when you're trying to do all of that at once, you never really get good at anything. And you get too scatterbrained on actually understanding who is my customer and who am I trying to target. And it's really hard to build a brand reputation and build any sort of value in the service or the product that you provide if you don't understand who your target audience is.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty brilliant. I feel like a lot of people don't even think about that in the very few years of doing business.
Yeah.
But what has been like your go-to place for the lake of wisdom that you try to pull from?
Well, one of the things that I've always valued is, information, number one. And I mean, here's the thing. I've been around business. I've dipped my toes in different business opportunities. I've gone on different business ventures and things like that. And, if you talk to anybody that's successful in the business world, they're going to tell you, like, if they've done well in a business, it's probably not their first business.
Yeah. They've
probably been around the block. They've probably tried multiple things. They've probably failed at a couple different things. And, to be honest with you, the intricacies of the other business ventures that I've been on don't necessarily match up with what I'm doing today, but the principles do.
Yeah.
And so you learn as you go. And it's like, whether you're, an online business, whether you're a product-based business, or whether you're a service-based business, there's things that are consistent that never change. Like, your customer is the most important relationship, right? It doesn't matter if you're showing up to somebody's house to clean their car or you're selling somebody a product online. Like, there's companies that I consume from online that are so intricate and understand that the value is in the customer so much that there's handwritten notes in every single package that I order from that company specifically, because they don't necessarily just care about the quality of the product that they're selling, which they do, but they also care about the relationship that they're building, even if they're not face to face. So there's things in every business that matter more than just literally what you're doing or what you're selling. And so, over the years, I've surrounded myself with, some great people, some of which I still have around, some of which I don't. And, I pick and choose, and I kind of take information from areas that make the most sense to me and apply it and really try to understand the why behind everything. And once you do that enough times, you kind of start to figure out what works and understand that business is business. If you're in business to make money, you're probably going to fail every time. If you're in business to add value, whether that's through a product or through a service, you have to focus on one customer at a time, but one customer at a time turns into 10 customers. And those 10 customers have such a good experience with what you do and how you move that they tell multiple other people.
Yeah.
Right? Because good experiences may travel slower than bad experiences. Because I think there's a famous saying out there that goes, something like, if someone has a good experience with you, they'll tell 3 people. But if they have a bad experience with you, they'll tell 10. So your goal is to focus on, what can I do on an everyday basis to give this person the best possible experience that they've ever had, whether they've hired another detailer before, whether they've hired another website designer before, whether they've hired another marketing agency before. Like, my goal is to give them the best experience that they've had, period. Not just with a mobile detailing company, but period.
Yeah, that's really good. Where did you learn that from? Experience? The hard way?
The hard way is the easiest way, in my opinion. Yeah.
So in the service-based world, what does giving somebody a good experience look like?
Well, I think there's a lot of different facets, and there's a lot of things that you kind of have to juggle. A good experience starts long before you even show up to their house. And so I've thought about like what do I value in experiences that I've had with restaurants, products, services, whatever the case may be. And one of the things is having, when someone books with you, what do they get? They get any sort of they get any sort of like confirmation. Do they get any sort of like welcome to the team type vibe? Are they getting any sort of interaction before you even show up? Mm-hmm. Because you have to remember that like the moment that you make contact with a potential customer, their experience starts.
Yeah.
So how you dress, how you carry yourself, how you interact with them, how you interact with people around them, how you carry yourself says everything about how you run your business. Mm-hmm. And so, in my opinion, because that starts so early, you have to have systems in place and you have to have things ready to go so that they know that they're being taken care of like you would take care of your family. And so we have systems and things in place that allow people to know that, hey, we care about you. You're going to have a great experience with us. And that also comes with, having a good reputation and having good word of mouth and stuff like that. Because like I said earlier, like someone has a bad experience with you, you just lost out. I mean, in the technology world in today's day and age where our businesses can grow the fastest online, they can also get torn apart very quickly online as well. Yeah. And so, as somebody that's been, close for a long time and has seen the journey of inception of this idea to building out everything and, doing everything right and stuff like that. It took me a little bit longer to get to the day of being operational, right? But, having that experience to me was worth the extra couple months that it took to get everything in place, because it's like, if I want to provide somebody with a really, really good experience, I'm not just going to show up to their house with all of my detailing stuff run in the back of my car.
Yeah.
So there's different things that I wanted to do to make sure that on the front end, from my previous experiences, on the front end, that I had things set in place so that the moment that I got my first customer as Elevate, that when I showed up to their house, they're like, man, how long have these guys been in business for? 5 years, 10 years? Because first impressions are everything. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah. I think it goes a lot to say, like, I mean, this is something you can learn in sales, which actually it's a good segue into one of my next questions, is that the way you show up is everything. Because if you show up unprepared, you show up like you don't know what you're doing, like you just got here and you're just doing another day, and like you don't know anything about the customer, you don't know anything about their world, about their life, especially in business. Like if you're a B2B company, like you're already losing because your competitor is going to show up 10 times better and they're going to look a hell of a lot more appealing than whatever you're looking like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which, like I was saying, leads into a good segue. So we're creating a course right now about, essentially how to make 6 figures, especially in a job, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe don't want to do something like what you and I do, which is run a business, but they would like to be better for their family, be better for their social economic, placement in the world, and that want to succeed more. And obviously yourself has been in a position where you've made good money. Like, what are some of the things, and this is pertaining particularly to 3 roles that make good money in the 6 figures without like traditional education, whatnot, which is sales, marketing, operations, which I think you fall underneath the category, at least 3 of those at some point in life. Even coffee shop operations probably will pertain to this, But like, what are some key things that you've seen over your experience for your own personal life, along with everywhere else, that is extremely vital to fitting into that category, which could eventually open up the door for you starting your own business because of the capital you could raise?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree sales, marketing, operation. I would even add another layer to that too of understanding leadership. Because there's a lot of very, very successful entrepreneurs out there that'll tell you that you need those things to be successful in business. But owning a business isn't for everybody, right? The percentage of people that own businesses compared to the general public is small. And then the percentage of people that own and operate successful and profitable businesses from that small percentage is even smaller. And so I have, my business, but I also have my life. And, those things in some ways are very separate, but I also think those things in a lot of ways coincide. Right. And so things that I learn and I pick up in business, I can apply to different aspects of my marriage or different aspects of relationships with other people that are in my life. Right. It's like when you own a company, especially a small business, you're wearing so many hats in the business that to some people, they can't handle that. But there's some people like myself who I've had my share of jobs and, I can't just show up and do one thing every single day on repeat forever. That's why I believe I'm more entrepreneurial spirited than the average typical person. But that doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the other, right? There's entrepreneurs and then there's intrapreneurs. Actually being an entrepreneur in a lot of situations is a lot more effective for somebody's life because it's been said that entrepreneurs, their goal is to quit their 9-to-5 so that they can work 24/7. And that's real, right? Because when you own a business, when you're done like building a website or when I'm done cleaning a car, that doesn't mean that the jobs or that owning the business and the operations of owning the company is done.
Right.
And sometimes, you eventually you want to get to the point where you can hire people and put people in spots in your company that give you some free time, for sure. But it takes time to get to that point. And sometimes the best possible role and the best possible position for someone to be in is to be involved in a company like an entrepreneur, but you don't own the company. There's less risk, right? You're not taking the financial risk, but you have every opportunity that you can to make as much money as you want if you're a part of the right company. And I think part of being a business owner is creating the environment for people like that to thrive, right? Not getting egotistical as a business owner and thinking that you have all the answers. The goal is to eventually hire people that are smarter than you. Right? Hire people that have better ideas than you. They just don't want to take the risk financially or time-wise to run the business. And I think there's so much opportunity for people that think like that because, there's a lot of people that are very entrepreneurial spirited. They value leadership. They value these different things that businesses run on. But they want to be a part of something big. And the thing is that as entrepreneurs, our goal is to add value to the marketplace. And the way that someone can come in as a successful entrepreneur and make a lot of money is by adding value to the business. Are you just showing up every day? And is this just a 9-to-5 job for you? You're just showing up to collect a check? Because I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody that shows up to whatever they do as like, I'm here at 9. I'm leaving at 5. I'm just here to do what I was hired to do. I don't know one person like that makes great money. Most people that make 6 figures plus at a job, they're showing up with an entrepreneurial spirit. And they're like, what can I do to move the mission of this company forward? And that's always been my goal at every company that I've been a part of. And especially as an entrepreneur, my goal is to create, I remember when we first initially had a consultation and, you guys were asking, you didn't just jump right into here's what we offer and here's what we do. You were like, where did this start? What was it about this specific business that made you want to take the leap? Like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want this to turn into? Right? Because my goal is not to just create something that's successful for my family. My goal is to create something that other people can buy into the vision, that can be a part of, that can take it upon themselves, that maybe they think they're an entrepreneur right now. Maybe they think they're an employee right now.
Yeah.
But with the right leadership and with the right systems and being able to nurture in that environment over time, maybe they can be like, you know what? Maybe being an entrepreneur is for me. And how cool would it be to have a platform and to have a business where you can literally rise somebody up that maybe didn't think they were an entrepreneur, but have spent the time and the sweat equity inside of a company being an entrepreneur or being an entrepreneur, and also having an opportunity inside that same company to have some sort of ownership someday. And I remember when I, walked through that with you guys and we talked about like, this is my goal, this is my vision, this is what I want to do, this is what we want to build. I remember you guys being like, man, like we talk with a lot of business owners and like, we don't always get that answer. And so not only I believe building a successful company has to do with the head of the company, but it's also what kind of people are you attracting into the company and what kind of culture are you creating for those people where they're excited to work, right? Because auto detailing, for example, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember when I learned how to detail and stuff like that, I was like, man, this is intense. And I took a couple years off and I had a sales job for a couple years. And when I got back into it, it's like my body hurt for the first, week or so because I wasn't used to the physical effort that it takes.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me. You can go on anywhere online and find detailing jobs, and most of them pay 15, 16, 17, 18 bucks an hour. Well, what kind of life can someone build on that?
Yeah.
Not their dream life, right? Like, what would it be to be able to build a company that allows people to be a part of it, but also build what is their version of their dream life, right? They being able to, live in the places that they want to live and live in the houses they want to live and drive what they want to drive and have the time with their family they want to have and all of that kind of stuff. Be able to build that. But also, be able to, you have to start with culture and you have to start with taking care of your people and making sure that they understand and know that they're valued as well, because, you can go and make more money somewhere else or, make less money or enjoy your life somewhere else. If you're not providing that environment for people.
Well, that leads me to one of the next questions I was going to ask, which was like the scalability of not just your business, but just service-based businesses in general. Mm-hmm. I think, like you mentioned, we talk to a lot of businesses that quite frankly don't know how to scale, nor do they know what it looks like to scale. And if they're a service-based business, like what are the fundamentals of scaling that you have to get down for it to be worthwhile?
I think with my experience in other business ventures, I've gotten different ideas of what scaling businesses look like. Like there's people that I talk to today that I'll say something in regards to scaling business and they don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. And so the concept of scaling a business is really duplicating yourself over, right? And so if in various different businesses, that's going to look different, right? And so specifically in my business, my goal has been, I know that I'm going to be, as much as I love the detailing game, as much as I enjoy that and stuff like that, I know that there's going to be a day where I'm not detailing anymore. I'm not out on a van anymore. I'm not interacting with customers anymore and stuff like that. And so from the very beginning, I knew, I was like, this may be a 1 year time period. This may be a 2 year time period. This may be a 3 year time period for me to be boots on the ground understanding my systems, what works, understanding how, to operate this business effectively. Because again, I haven't owned a business specifically like a service-based business before.
Yeah.
And so there may be things that, are similar that coincide and stuff like that, but not everything's the same. And so I think when people get too scale happy, they either don't duplicate the right things, or they run out of money, or they go bankrupt, or, they get too excited about scaling and not excited enough about the fundamentals of what actually scales the business effectively.
Mm.
And so I know that, the systems are essentially what scale a business. You cannot scale and build an effective business without effective systems. And so I always wanted to, build something that allowed me to duplicate a level of ownership. Like, my goal is to be the safe light auto glass of the mobile detailing industry. And that's going to start here in Arizona. And, originally from Washington State. My goal is to eventually be in Washington State as well. I have, connections and ties to other detailing companies out there as well. And so I think that, eventually my goal is to scale and duplicate multiple different franchises across the country that allow people to own and operate their own business, but with our proven systems and our proven track record. Like, for most people, if you're driving down the highway and you get a big crack in your windshield and you need to get your windshield replaced, there's one company that you think of because of their reputation.
Yeah.
And so our goal is to be a household name when it comes to the mobile detailing industry. And, educating people on the value of what having a mobile detailer looks like, right? Because people have house cleaners, people have dog groomers, people have landscapers, people have pest control, people have all of these different service-based companies. And at the end of the day, there's one reason that people have all of these different services, and it's because it's effective and it's efficient, and they don't want to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so my goal has always been, starting from the very beginning, building a brand that is not only valuable, but everything from the moment that they hear about who Elevate is. That's why we named it Elevate, right? We named it Elevate Auto Spa. We didn't go with Elevate Auto Detail. We didn't go with, some generic auto detail. We didn't use my name, Auto Detailing. We came up with the concept of Elevate Auto Spa for a number of different reasons. But the first reason is the word elevate, right? You would expect, if you hire a company named Elevate Auto Spa, that you're going to have some sort of elevated experience with that company, because you don't name your company that unless you're going to be elevated. It sounds cliche, but that's originally why we chose that word specifically. And, auto spa, like, auto detail is one thing. Some people don't even know what auto detailing is.
Yeah.
But if you think of auto spa, you're thinking of a prestigious experience. You're thinking of, why do our wives go to the spa? Well, there's one reason, right?
Money to spend.
But they want the experience of being taken care of, right? And so I think that if we have the ability to, number one, elevate someone's experience through the auto detailing industry and educate people on what the auto detailing industry is, and then we have an elevated experience. You see our van show up, you're like, man, they thought that through. You see us get out of the car, you see the professional representation of how we carry ourselves and what we represent. You know that there's a lot of thought that went into that. And so when it comes to scaling a business, you can't scale a business until you have those fundamental things figured out. And not only figured out, but tested and proven in the marketplace.
That's good, man. That's good. You definitely put a lot of thought into this. Again, going back to that Tylenol. Well, that leaves me to pretty much the last question then, which probably the biggest call to action within this, because I think a lot of people are going to be watching this. They're going to be a mixed bag of viewers, but most of them will be in the mindset of like, I either have a business idea, I want to start a business, I just don't know where to start. And what better way to hear about it than from somebody that owns a business in the service industry. But if you were to start another business, couldn't be out of detailing, and had to be service based, what would you choose and why would you choose that business?
What would I choose and why would I choose? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question.
What if I remove the restrictions of service based, or just any type of business? Or at least you don't even have to think of what business it is, but just what are the fundamentals that you want to get straight before you go down that venture?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why it's difficult for me to answer that specific question of like, what other business would I start is, number one, I'm not there yet. Number two, I'm so hyper focused on what I'm doing that, sometimes people want to start this business and then they want to start this business while they try to get this one going, and they want to, start this business and start that business. And you cannot be divided in focus and build success in one thing.
Yeah.
And so, I am hyper focused on what I'm doing, but, as far as the framework and the infrastructure of starting another company, is there's so many different facets that you have to think about. I think of it like this, like an ecosystem. There's a company, there's a, small company out there. They make phones. They have, an Apple on the back of them. And they created this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. Which, as a Apple user myself, that ecosystem is extremely valuable because they have iPhones, they have computers, they have iPads, they have watches, they have TVs, they have everything that you would need technology-wise. And it's ultimately the underlying service that unifies all of those different products inside of that ecosystem. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody on my phone and I'm also doing something on my laptop, I can carry what I'm doing from my phone over to the laptop. And if I pick my iPad up, I can continue it on there and I get, notification. Everything is intertwined.
Yeah.
And it makes it valuable based on my lifestyle and based on what I'm doing in the current moment. Well, business is a lot like that in a sense as well, because when you own a business, you got to think of marketing. You got to think of customer outreach. You got to think of a processing system. You got to think of how you're going to taxes, right? Having someone to run your books. You got to have all of these different things in place that are essentially this giant ecosystem that make the business run, right? So it's like the moment that I make contact with a customer, they're put into a system that allows me to outreach to them. As soon as they book with us, they get confirmation, right? They can see everything that we're going to do to their car. They can see step by step what we're going to do as a service that we're providing to them as the customer. When we're on our way, they know we're on our way. When we're done, they know we're done. Inside that same ecosystem, I can charge them. I can send them an invoice. I can send them automatically, review platform that allows them to review our business. And then all of that stuff is automatically inputted into a system that allows me to track everything that's going on in my business. So going back to our last, conversation, how am I supposed to scale a business in multiple different states if I don't have one ecosystem that connects everything? Mm-hmm. Right? And so if I was to start another business, if I was to do this again, which eventually the goal is to start other businesses, what that entails and what that looks like, God knows, right? But but systems are what tie everything together. And so whatever business it is, businesses rise and fall on the systems that are basically foundational.
Yeah.
And so if you have maybe a concept of what type of business you want to start, or what you like, there is truth to the saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But it's like mostly not true.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you love what you do, you're still working.
Right.
Right? It's still work. And there's pros and cons to that. But definitely enjoying what you do, enjoying the outcome of what you do, enjoying the interaction of what you do, makes it that much more enjoyable. And so auto detailing is something that I'm familiar with, that I have a lot of experience in. And so I had to research what all the different facets of running a service-based business, what that looks like. And with today's technology, I mean, you can get a business plan like that. Mm-hmm. And the difference is getting a business plan and continuing to nurture that business plan and act it out, rather than just, thinking about a business, right? Because there's so many different ways. We live in my opinion, the best possible day and age that you could live in to own and operate a business. You have so much technology and so many resources that are at your fingertips to be able to own and operate a business. And if you don't know how, there's tools and resources that educate you on how. Yeah. Everything that you need to do, right? And so that would be my recommendation, is that it's never been easier to start a business, but you have to understand that you're going to fail. Things are not going to go your way, right? Things are going to be difficult. There's a reason why this is not the chosen path for everybody, right? But that's why it's also important to tie back to what we were talking about earlier, is creating an environment for people that maybe they love auto detailing and they don't want to start a business, but creating space for those people to be able to educate them and have a platform that allows them to get educated on those things, so that maybe one day they do, but then also giving them the opportunity to do so. Because in my opinion, sifting through, you have to have hands-on experience and have access to people that have hands-on experience with running a business, not just sifting through everything that's online of people talking about starting a business. Where's the fruit? Where's their product? Where's their service? Where's the experience that they're saying that they have? And following those people. And if you can, get in those people's back pocket, right? Because that's going to be extremely valuable long term. So one of our specialties is the high end, the ceramic coatings, the paint correction, things like that, and ultimately protecting your vehicle. And here's the thing. I've heard this in the detailing industry, in different facets and stuff like that. And this doesn't happen super often to me because of the target audience that we're going for. But let's just say a basic. We're very simple when it comes to the services that we provide, right? We have an interior only, exterior, which most people, opt in for our full detail, which is complete inside detail, complete outside detail. And that is the point of the service is details, right? I've known from the very beginning of auto detailing in general that I'm not selling somebody the concept of cleaning their vehicle, right? Like that feeling that you get, there's a reason why auto dealerships are effective, right? Because you drive up in your, piece of crap car and you see all these brand new cars, right? They look brand new, they're freshly detailed, they smell good on the inside. You get inside the car and you're like, their goal is to get you inside the car because they know the feeling that's associated with you driving a new car. It smells new, it feels new, it drives new, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've known from the very beginning that we're not just selling detailing, we're selling the feeling that you get when you get into a freshly detailed car and you see it for the first time and you're like, holy crap, my car wasn't even this clean when I first bought it. The dealership that I bought this car from didn't even take the attention to detail to make this car look as good as it does right now. And by default, you just happen to have a better day the next day. Because when you get in your car and your car's clean, you feel like your life's together. You feel just like your home, when your home's clean, you feel like everything's together and everything's good. That's what our goal is. And, I don't really, there's people that are like, well, our full detail starts at around $300, $299. Now, some people would be like, why would I spend $300 on a detail? I can just do it myself.
Yeah.
Well, there's places for that type of consumer, right? On every corner here in Arizona, you can drive up, you can vacuum your car out, you can do it, run it through the car wash and all of that kind of stuff. What most people don't understand is that the chemicals that are used in those are horrible for your vehicle. You're not getting in all the nooks and crannies of the inside of you're doing a quick vacuum. Well, that may be good enough for you, but that's great. You're not our target audience.
Right.
The car washes, those brushes that are in those car washes clean cars all day long, and they collect dirt over time. And as soon as you drive your car through that car wash, it's slapping that dirt across your paint and spraying water on it. And, we've done tests like this before where it's like, let's do a paint correction on this hood and let's take it through a car wash and see what happens just from one car wash. And some of the paint corrections that we do are, it's crazy to me how much those brushes and stuff like that tear apart the vehicle. And so our specific goal is to create protection, right? Especially here in Arizona, the sun's beating down in your car all day long. That's the value of ceramic coatings. You're basically putting an armor shield on your vehicle. And if you maintain that properly, you maintain the ceramic coating properly, like our typical ceramic coating is about $1,000. You're paying $1,000. Now that's something you can't, in most circumstances, you won't be able to get the same results that we do because of the high grade equipment that we use, because of the high grade chemicals that we use that are not going to ruin your paint.
Yeah.
And, you may pay $1,000 for a ceramic coating, but if you just spent $50,000 on a car, your best bet is to spend $1,000 on a ceramic coating so that we can get the paint as close to perfect as possible and protect that paint for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Because if you pay $1,000, the average lifespan of a car for people to keep is 3 to 5 years. You may spend $50,000 on a car, but you're going to get tired of it after a couple months. And by the time 3, 4, 5 years goes by, you're ready for a new car. Well, your best bet at getting the most out of that vehicle when you go turn around and sell it is that it looks the way that it did the day you bought it. Mm. And the only way to do that is having a ceramic coating on your vehicle, because over time, if you have a car for 5 years in Arizona, it's going to eat away at your paint. And a ceramic coating protects against that. And it's going to allow your paint if it's maintained properly, it's not bulletproof, but if it's maintained properly, it should look 5 years from now the same that it did the day you got the ceramic coating put on it, as long as you maintain it. But if you spend $1,000 on a ceramic coating and then you run it through the car wash and you never get it cleaned and you don't maintain it and stuff like that, not only is it not going to last as long as it should, but it's going to destroy that ceramic coating over time. And so, it's the same, everything that we do, we update everything to people's Carfax. And so when you go and you buy a vehicle, one of the most important things about buying a vehicle private party is looking at the Carfax. What's been done to this car? right? Has it been in any accidents? Has it been maintained? Where has it been maintained? Has it been maintained in a way that hasn't been recorded, or has it been taken to the dealership? Because if you have the option of two different vehicles, one doesn't have any maintenance history and one has meticulous maintenance history, you're probably going to go with the vehicle that's maintained regularly because you know that it's working properly, right? Well, that's why we update people's Carfax and stuff like that, because when you go to sell the car someday, our goal is that you get more than what it costs you to invest into taking care of that vehicle, right? Because if you do that properly, that's the whole concept of this, of auto detailing, is that, when you go to sell it someday, not only do you enjoy it while you have it, but you're going to be able to get more out of the vehicle if it's meticulously maintained than if you didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good marketing for you guys too, because then they can see that on the Carfax. So.
Yeah. And we have a lot of people that, hit us up that are selling cars that want it clean before they sell it. And, as somebody who's bought in vehicles online through private party and stuff like that, I'm much more likely to purchase a vehicle that's clean and not haggle on the price than, somebody that has a car that's just destroyed that I'm going to have to put all this effort into getting cleaning. I don't know what's under all of this.
Yeah.
Right. So, in my opinion, maintenance is the best way to go. And that's something that we offer as well. Something that we do, especially on people who have ceramic coated vehicles, is that we have a maintenance package where we come out on a monthly basis and dial everything up. And as long as cars are maintained, at least on a, semi-regular basis, that vehicle is going to be staying pristine for as long as you have it.
Yeah.
So